Welcome to a special edition of Sports Point of View. I'm your host, Johanna Rosalye, and today we're diving into the biggest story to hit the Valley this last weekend. Kevin Durant has been traded. That's right. The Phoenix Suns have officially sent Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets in a blockbuster deal that's sending shockwaves through the NBA and shaking up the direction of this franchise. And the trade happened Sunday morning on the day of Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So there was a lot going on Sunday morning. And then, starting off as soon as you woke up was the news that we got here. So in this episode, we're breaking down the full scope of the trade, what the Suns got in return, what it means for the team's identity, and whether this signals a full reset or a retooling around Booker and Beal. So I'm not going to do it alone. We're all going to get into it. And so don't go anywhere. Sports Point of View starts right now. And I'm honored to be joined by a voice you know well, someone who's been following and writing about the Suns and Arizona sports for a very long time now. My good friend, columnist at the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com, Greg Moore is here. Greg brings a sharp lens to the culture, emotional, and strategic layers behind big moves like these. And you're here to help us make sense of what's been going on with this deal, what it means for the Suns. The fans are devastated, at least I know I am. And, talk about the future of the basketball here in the Valley, Greg. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Yo, I'm great. How about you?
I am doing great. I am not gonna lie, I'm heartbroken, to learn about the trade just Sunday morning. I wanted Kevin Durant, it's no secret. I wanted him to stay. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But aside from that, I'm just trying to hang on.
No, I get that. Kevin Durant is unquestionably, I mean to say without question, universally regarded as one of the greatest players to ever pick up a basketball. At the very least, he's one of the 2, 3, maybe 4 greatest scorers of all time. I've got him on my top 10 list. I just don't know what more you could ask for from a basketball player. And so, from that perspective, absolutely, it's a time to be sad. I, like you, wanted the Suns to figure out a way to keep Booker and Durant together and figure out how to make it work because, frankly, if you spot me 2 of the greatest players of their generation, I should be able to figure out how to get you 50 wins. But it didn't work out. So now the franchise is retooling. And I think that to me is maybe the coolest thing that we're looking at right now is the Phoenix Suns are going to absolutely get revamped because they've traded Durant for some guys who I think can change the culture around here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very interested to see how this is all gonna pan out. And, I want to go ahead and just dive right into this with the trade. So Kevin Durant is dealt to Houston. I have this here for those who are seeing us on our YouTube channel. A graphic from The Athletic, which I like nicely how it breaks everything down that Houston receives Kevin Durant here. Phoenix receives Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, number 10 overall pick, and 5 second-round picks. So we know that the NBA draft is just literally around the corner on Wednesday. So talk to me, Greg. How do the Suns benefit from the trade? Did they make this, I don't want to call it a haste type of trade, but just almost in the eve of the NBA finals and trying to get, something to work with there?
Yeah, I think the Suns benefit in a few ways, right? Let's assume that Durant and Booker as a pairing was an intractable failure. There was nothing you were going to do. It was never going to work. Well, you've broken that up. And you, by changing the chemistry, might change the outcome. Let's look at the players they got. Jalen Green is 23 years old. He's had 4 seasons in the NBA. The dude already is like a perpetual all-star snub. He's basically Devin Booker, but like edgier. He's faster. He's more athletic. He's more likely to go flying through the air and try to dunk on the whole team. He's got tattoos. He's got cornrows. He's got black fingernails. Like, the guy looks like a rock star out there. And it might be fun just to have that kind of frenetic, youthful, crazy kind of energy if that's what he's bringing. Dillon Brooks. I'm old enough to remember when Dennis Rodman was like the most hated player in basketball, except by Chicago Bulls fans. We currently know that Draymond Green is like the most hated player in basketball, except by Golden State Warriors fans. I think Dillon Brooks is sort of like that. He says crazy stuff. He looks kind of crazy. He's a complete agitator. Wears the cool sunglasses. He mixes it up with your other team's best player. Ask Devin Booker. They've had their moments. And then if you look at the draft capital, right? The Phoenix Suns didn't have a whole heck of a lot going on draft day, now or in the future, until this trade. The number 10 pick, for my money, could turn into a center. Not going to spend a whole lot of time breaking them down, but there's the guy from Duke, the guy from Maryland, and the guy from France. One of them ought to be there. And if you could turn that guy into what DeAndre Ayton was supposed to be, oh yeah, and then you've got 5 second-round picks. You know what you get in the second round? Hidden gems, hustle guys, tryhards, energy guys, the kinds of guys who boost up a roster, become fan favorites. We just saw the NBA Finals. If I'm not mistaken, Lou Dort was a second-round pick. Andrew Nembhard didn't have the best Game 7, but he looked good the rest of the time. He was a second-round pick. And I'm sure if you just go through those rosters player by player, championship teams find those kinds of guys, and those kinds of guys drive culture in the locker room, but they also become fan favorites. I'm okay with what the Suns got.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I'm skeptical with not having Kevin Durant because just the way he played, I know he didn't get a lot of credit with what the type of player one that he is. Yes, we do understand that he had injuries, but just that mentality, unfortunately, it didn't work out with him last season. But he brings you out of those tough situations in the scoring. He's out there in the court. He can hustle, but you just have to give him that team chemistry. Give him those key, those tools and those key players that are gonna, complement him, complement, the team, and for them to excel. And unfortunately for the Suns, that didn't happen this last season. They've had their struggles, and it appears that he may have that in Houston. Diving into the next thing here with him now going to Houston, here we have a potential starting lineup with Amin Thompson, Fred VanVleet, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun. So tell me what this means for the Houston Rockets.
So it'll be a lot of fun, right? So listen, when you describe Durant, the guy's a walking bucket, right? Like, you don't necessarily need an offensive scheme for Kevin Durant to get you 30. Now, that's the problem with what the Suns did. They tried to just have Kevin Durant go get 30 by himself. When Kevin Durant was at his best in Golden State, he was part of an offensive system that utilized his skill set. If Houston plays that way, allows Kevin Durant to come off some action, maybe a little, he's moving without the ball, maybe he's catching it on the block, maybe he's turned, like, there's opportunities, there's ways that smart basketball coaches can put Kevin Durant in position to score to make things easier on him. And I think Udoka is just as good of a coach as anybody. I think he's proved that both in Boston and in Houston. I think that's going to be fun to watch. Now, Thompson, I want to say he was first team all defense, right? Like, that guy can guard anybody. Alperen Sengun is like a walking double-double, right? And he's a young dude too. He's an athletic big guy. He scores 20. We're talking 10, 12 rebounds. VanVleet, championship level point guard. Like, this is a legit roster. And the thing that went wrong in the playoffs for Houston was that Jalen Green went absolutely cold. Like, sometimes Jalen Green is as hot as anybody, and then other times he'll shoot you right out of a game. And that streakiness is associated with youth, I think. That happened here. Kevin Durant is less likely to have those types of downs where he just can't find the basket. Listen, I think for Houston, it takes a team that was a deep threat playoff contender and makes them a contender for Western Conference Finals. Maybe Oklahoma City is looking at, hey, how can we retool a little bit to make sure we're ready to match up with Houston? It's a lot to shake out. The West is no slouch. It has not been a slouch for my life. But how does this work for Houston? I think it works out pretty well for Houston.
And Houston has been one of those underdogs for a while, and they've slowly crept up, as the time went on, and now we're seeing those. They just retooled the team. They've brought those key pieces that work for them. They were able to maneuver, and look at them now. They've like slowly have slid under the radar, and you're seeing what they're doing, and then bam, they land Kevin Durant. So I am excited but scared to see the Houston Rockets this upcoming season. I am not gonna lie, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, so Houston blew it up, right? Like they had James Harden, they had Chris Paul and James Harden. Like they kept getting right there, but they couldn't quite get there. So it said scrap it. They blew it up and then rebuilt through the draft, and now they've added a key piece in a trade, and it looks like they've really found the right mix. I too am excited to see it. Again, I wish that the Suns had not felt compelled to make this move. But if you're going to do it, there's worse ways to go about it. Again, to repeat, the West is a monster. Denver's good. Minnesota's good. Yep. Oklahoma City's good. And unlike the East, we haven't seen a glut of players in the West go out with year-long injuries. Like the West is not going to go anywhere. So Houston's got its work cut out for it. But again, I'm going to watch.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, the reason I wanted to bring you on and circle back to this is when, all the rumors started and how everything that the Suns were going to be going through in the offseason, we talked about possible Kevin Durant trade. You and I, kind of had a little back, circled back to this yesterday after the news broke. This was actually one of your guesses of potential possibilities where Kevin Durant, could go. And look at you. You nailed it. It was one of two. It was either Houston Rockets or OKC.
Yep. And OKC, remember what I was saying was the first thing I said was if a playoff contender goes out and scoring is a problem, that's the exact kind of team that's going to want to add a guy like Kevin Durant. I knew that Oklahoma City fans, people within the organization, they love the guy, right? And I knew that Oklahoma City had a bunch of stuff that they could send the Suns in return that the Suns would have wanted. Problem is, Oklahoma City Thunder took themselves out of that conversation by winning the NBA championship. So, boom, process of elimination. The other team I picked up on, Houston, had the exact problem I was describing. What if you've got a team with playoff expectations that can't score? Because in the playoffs, it's different. You see the same team over and over again. You game plan for them. You get teams that are more locked in. You don't have those stretches in the playoffs like you do in the regular season where you're playing 3, 4, 5 teams in a row and only half of them care. In the playoffs, everybody cares. Everybody cares every possession. And so scoring in the playoffs is a skill to be learned that's different from scoring in the regular season.
Definitely.
Kevin Durant knows how to do it. So if you took your number one scoring option, Jalen Green, who failed you at your most crucial moment, and you replaced him with an all-time great number one scoring option that should take care of the problem. Oh, yeah, Kevin's no slouch on defense. I go back to a moment the Phoenix Suns had beaten Cleveland in Phoenix late in the season. And there was a moment where Kevin Durant found himself isolated round about the elbow guarding Darius Garland. Darius Garland is quick as a hiccup. He's faster than a sneeze. Like that guy, and I'm hopeful that his injury heals up and then he gets back on the court at 100% because, man, is he fun to watch. But Durant took a couple steps back, used his length, funneled Garland to the baseline where he had help from a center ready to step up and make life hard for Garland. And that's what Kevin Durant can do. His defense is underrated, but the guy can guard his position. He can guard on switches, and he's smart. And he's also the kind of guy, all this talk about Kevin Durant's a leader, he's not a leader. Kevin Durant's not a rah-rah, whatever. What he's going to do is he's going to go over to a young guy and tap him on the leg and whisper, hey, man, don't forget you got baseline on that. And that's the kind of stuff that young players can respond to if they see it work, if they see it contribute to winning. I think the world of Kevin Durant. I wish it would have worked out for him in Phoenix. I'm sorry to hear that he felt that the Suns fans didn't want him around. I'm not a Suns fan. I'm a columnist. I root for the best story. But sometimes I write to the fans. Sometimes I write on behalf of the fans. That's just the way it goes. In this case, if the fans didn't want Kevin around, I think the fans were wrong here. That guy's legit.
Yeah, definitely. And we're getting close to wrapping up here. But on that note, I want to go ahead and bring on a couple of sound bits and get your take on this. And one of them is, the first one I'll go ahead and bring up is Kevin Durant reacting to the trade. So first news of this is there's the Fanatics Fest that's in New York City. He's on stage in doing an interview, and just the crowd erupts, starts reacting, and then he's told the news that he has just been traded from Phoenix to the Houston Rockets, and he has a big, huge smile on his face, and that's how he receives the news. And then here is a soundbite from Kay Adams following that interview. She goes up to him and asks him some questions, and then this is what Kevin Durant has to say about the trade.
They asked me where I wanted to go, some of my destinations. I gave them to them, and here we are.
Nope. Let me go ahead and replay that.
Sure.
When people could just hang your career in a balance like that and just choose what they want to do with your career is a nerve-wracking feeling, but being able to kind of dictate what you want to do and then being with a team that values you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Kevin, people are going to hold on to that dictate what you want to do. Did you have a hand in this?
Most definitely.
How much of it?
I mean, they asked me where I wanted to go, some of my destinations. I gave them to them, and here we are.
What do you make of that, Greg?
Well, I mean, yeah. To make it in journalism, sometimes you got to move around. In my case, I left my hometown. I lived in Georgia for a little while. I lived in Kansas City for a little while. Phoenix. I've been lots of different places trying to get my career off the ground. But every move I made, I was able to make the move. I was able to apply, say, I'd like to go here, I'd like to go there. At no point did I have to worry about the editor of my paper saying, oh, by the way, you're going to Alaska tomorrow, tell your wife and kids. Didn't work like that. And so if you're a professional athlete, part of the gig is that you don't always have control over where you work. It stinks. You understand it because the guys are making a lot of money. They're rich and famous. They wouldn't trade it for anything. It's part of the deal. But on a human level, that doesn't make it any easier. I think the Phoenix Suns did a great job by saying, hey, let's work together on this. I don't think they, quote unquote, had to do it, but I think it was absolutely the right thing to do. Any chance you have to part ways where both sides feel good about it, you maintain the relationship. There's no need to burn bridges. There's no need to scorch the earth. Kevin Durant has earned a measure of respect. But all that said, the NBA is not what it was 10, 15 years ago in terms of player control. Take a look at the Dallas Mavericks trade of Luka Doncic. Would have never happened before. It happens now. You look at, the way the player salaries can jump up. We're talking guys who can earn $70 million with all of the different kickers that are included in what the newest max level max is. But the fact of the matter is, owners And executives have more control over franchises now than they did in the previous generation. If you look at the way the contracts are structured, it makes it impossibly difficult to put together a super team. The Suns tried it. It was a massive failure. Any other team that tries it will find itself handicapped by the salary cap. They'll find themselves unable to make moves easily. You'll hear a lot of talk about the second apron, but the fact of the matter is the more money you spend, the harder it is to make moves, because the NBA has put a premium on parity and teams working off of similar budgets to try to create and accomplish the same goal. So yeah, thought it was real cool of the Suns to handle it the way they did. I'm happy for Kevin Durant that he was able to land with a contender, because could you imagine if you were Kevin Durant and you did all that you could to win a championship? The Phoenix Suns were good when you were on the floor last year. They were terrible when you weren't on the floor last year. The Phoenix Suns put a roster around Kevin Durant that didn't have enough firepower and enough spots, didn't have enough energy, didn't have enough enthusiasm, didn't have enough youth to make up for the shortcomings. So for that, should Kevin Durant be relegated to Charlotte? For that, should Kevin Durant get shipped off to DC? No. The fact of the matter is Kevin Durant was 3 games away from being All-NBA. Again, I'd have to look. I'm sure he's been All-NBA about as long as I've been on this earth.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, this is the right way to do it, where both sides feel like they've had their needs met. I thought it was just fantastic for the Suns to do it that way.
Yeah, I'm glad that they were able to work that out, at least in that way. If he was going to have out, he had, he set his terms and he can dictate that. The last soundbite I want to go ahead and play here is something that he says about the trade and how, let me go ahead, before I give it away, let me go ahead and play it.
Yeah.
I just felt like, they wanted me to go. So it's like, I'm glad we both, they got what they wanted and I got what I wanted. So we can move on, and good luck to them going forward. And I always remember my time there, but we on something else.
So he says they wanted me gone. Is he talking to the fans? Is he talking to the franchise, the Phoenix Suns? Is he talking to both? When I heard that, for me, it was heartbreaking to hear him for me to hear him say that.
Yeah. Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, he was talking to both. I think in the context of the quote, if I remember right, he was speaking specifically about the fans. But if ownership and the front office is reacting to what they perceive the fan demand to be, then he's speaking about the front office also by extension, right? The thing I think that's hard for most people to get is that life is not fair. It's not. I remember hearing a story, Jim Johnson, the championship coach of the Dallas Cowboys, said, look, if the backup linebacker fell asleep in the meeting, I'd have cut him. But if my starting quarterback, Troy Aikman, fell asleep in the meeting, I'd tap him very gently and say, hey, Troy, wake up. And that's the way it is. There's certain players, hey, buddy, you're going to get traded, and wherever you go, I suggest you make the best of it, because there's 15 more dudes just like you, and they want a job so bad they fight you for it. And then there's Kevin Durant, one of the greatest scorers ever to live, a walking 30-point night, right? So certain people earn certain levels of respect. And I'm grateful that the Phoenix Suns were able to figure this out in a way that was amicable. Both sides got a good deal out of this thing. Because I know, listen, me, if I was Brian Gregory, the Phoenix Suns general manager, I might have been trying to trade Kevin Durant to China or NBA Africa or something. Like, I'd be trying to get him, like, I'm not going to play you twice a year, 4 times a year. Like, no, I'm not doing it. But I'm grateful that it went that way. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Still I'm probably sounding like a broken record, still sad, heartbroken about it. I love Kevin Durant. Like, I really honestly do not think he was valued enough here either, whether it was the fans not really seeing his true value, whether it was the franchise, whether it was the coaching, like all the way around. I don't think he was valued enough. He showcased that in the Olympics, and we had an Olympic star here, a medalist, and he is just bigger that you can something that you can ever imagine. He is going to be in starting 5 season 2. So that's going to be rolling out. Also the news broke over the weekend, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then here we go, he gets sent off. So very, very, undervalued for the talent and the type of person that he is, in my opinion, here in the Valley.
100%. One of my favorite stories about Kevin Durant. I did this probably 6-7 years ago before he came to Phoenix. He was still playing with Golden State at the time. Whenever we think of Kevin Durant, it's always in terms of like this guy who's going off on people on social media and he's being prickly and he's being surly. That's not the dude I interacted with the last couple of years. And so 6 years ago, I ended up writing this story about a kid named Jordan Pruno, who was basically a ball boy. And Kevin Durant goes out of his way to find this kid. Every time they're in the same arena, he signs an autograph, he takes a picture. And this kid, Jordan, he could not be more excited to be around Kevin Durant, to have Durant's shoes, to have Durant's basketball. He makes this fan's day. He wears the jerseys. It's everything to him. And that's the side of him we don't hear enough about. The last day I saw Durant, I think was they were getting ready to play Oklahoma City at PHX Arena, standing down by the court, down by the tunnel. There was a kid with a golden Kevin Durant bobblehead. Kevin Durant was having some conversations off to the side, but when he was done, he came over, found the kid, signed the autograph on the bottom of the bobblehead, dapped the kid up, took a pose for a picture, and walked off. Like, come on. He doesn't have to do that at this stage.
He doesn't.
I think because Kevin Durant refuses to be what people expect him to be and instead decides that he's going to be who he is, good, bad, or indifferent, I think that rubs people the wrong way. But again, if you're good enough, you earn that right. Also, if you know who you are, you don't have to worry about other people defining you because you know who you are. Kevin Durant knows what he does behind the scenes. He knows what he does in front of the camera. And he's not looking for validation from others. I'm impressed. I missed the guy already. Like I said, I told y'all not to trade him, but if you had to trade him, I understand. I'm not quite as heartbroken as Johanna just because I'm old and cynical. It's what it is.
You are not old and cynical, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Greg. I know we can keep talking about the Kevin Durant trade for, I don't know, a week, a month, or the rest of the year, and I know it's definitely going to be happening here in Phoenix as the season commences and will progress. But I just have to say thank you again for coming on and joining me on this special episode of Sports Point of View. But before I do let you go, please go ahead and if you can let our people know where they can find you and your work.
Yeah, for sure. Greg Moore at Saying More on Twitter. You can find me at the Arizona Republic's website, azcentral.com. Every now and then I write something for the Arizona Republic. It gets kicked upstairs. It'll be on USA Today's website or in the USA Today paper, in the Arizona Republic print edition. Yeah, but your best bet is just to find me on Twitter at Saying More, and I'm a sports writer for the Arizona Republic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. He has a lot of great takes. If you haven't read his stuff, I would highly recommend it. I even get educated by Greg. So we have a lot of great conversations, which reminds me, I need to circle back with you on another thing. But to our listeners, to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of Sports Point of View. Just a reminder to go ahead and either follow us or download from wherever it is that you do listen to podcasts, Sports Point of View. You can follow me, Johanna Rosalye, on social media at JROSALYE. Until Saturday, I will see you then. This was Sports Point of View.
Take care, guys.